All right. So let's go back over the immigration situation. Jaysin, how do you feel about immigrants from any country, really, whether it's they're trying to escape a really bad situation or they simply aren't feeling it where they're at and they want to come up into the country by any means necessary, they got to get here because they need a better life. What's your view on how that's handled, where they're at, where they want to be?
Okay, so for me, it's kind of ride the fence on this, because in one aspect, there is a benefit to having immigrants come to this country. It's a very big bonus. On another side is you do have to be able to see and know and check who's coming in and out of the country in order to make sure nothing illegal is happening. But the bonus for immigration is that we now get people to do jobs that most Americans feel they are too good to do. Again, that goes into America being a very entitled country.
But we're also very industrialized, so we shouldn't just say we're entitled. America has progressed past the stage where people are used to doing manual labor. We are no longer farmer. Farming is one of the smallest pockets of our country and our economy. So it's not just that we think people are entitled. The country has progressed past that. So you need people whose country hasn't to fill those spots.
But also, having immigrants here increases our birth rate, which is a very big thing, and I've been harping on this a lot lately. So our birth rate, if it falls to a certain point, it's very hard to get it back up to where it needs to be in order to sustain our civilization, our society. So with immigrants, it raises that birth rate to where it should be, and it keeps us afloat in that sense. So with those reasons, I'm okay with immigration as long as they do it legally. Yeah, I think that's it. I think that's...
So do you think there should be a cap on the number that we accept at a given time? Because like you said, there's a certain level that we're trying to maintain. Well, we allow a certain number of immigrants in at a given time, then when it's capped, we cut it down. Because otherwise it may be a lot more, well, maybe there would be a great number more coming in and we would have more of an overpopulation issue if people were able to get in more quickly. Granted, not everyone's going about the legal process. Illegal immigration is a huge issue.
Exactly. Yeah.
But so your stance is more, as long as it's legal, there shouldn't be a number cap on the amount of people that come in?
For that's very hard for me to say. I know we need to maintain our birth rate at a certain rate. If we cap it, we do run the risk of falling again. And I think one of the biggest things that we're seeing right now is that people today just don't have as many kids as they used to. And I think millennials are actually even becoming to the point where it's more about them, and then finally they decide to maybe have a kid or two. And so I'm kind of I don't know.
Well, statistically, and the reason I asked you about the cap is because it just depends on how many we bring in, because I understand the birth rate, but there's also the fact that there are other factors that play a part in it. For example, high-income families average 1.2 kids per household, whereas low-income families average 5.
Yeah.
So even if you don't have the money to do it, people are still popping out kids.
I agree.
And so the birth rate could be quickly affected based on people who don't have as much, especially when they come over here, they're starting off with very little. But at what point do you say, well, we've had we're at a point where we're like maintaining, because if you keep letting everyone in, you can get to China's situation because they have so many people, and they're like you get one kid, you better make sure it's a boy, otherwise you're I mean that's why that's the way it is over there.
That's also why
that is also
exactly
why they're having a problem right now,
right?
Is because their birth rate is so low. But I think when you talk about legal versus illegal, you automatically have a cap on legal. Because there are going to be those people that say, I can't go in this way because what I'm going through right now needs to be immediately fixed. But there's this process to come in legally, so it's going to deter them. So I think when you put it that, okay, we're no longer accepting illegal immigrants, and you say you have to come in this way, you're automatically going to get a cap. And especially with the way we do our immigration system and legalizing people, it's a ridiculous process that takes forever.
That's true, but provided that it was more ideal, do you think there would be a cap on the number of people who would be able to enter the country illegally,
if we had
or
the
not?
system.
If we had a system where, I mean, like,
if we had a perfect system,
because the biggest problem with immigration is not that it exists, but that it's being done illegally. Whatever your excuse or problem is, the fact that you're not coming in by the standards that have been set, people are pissed off about it because there's the tax situation, all that. So the people who are entering legally, do you think there should be a number that we allow per year?
System, if we had a perfect system,
yeah,
and they were coming in legally, then I think at a point we would have to say, okay, we have too many people in this country. We need to scale it back a little bit and do a cap.
Okay, so you're saying we're not there now.
We're not there. By
So,
no means are we there now.
Deal with it when we start getting to whatever that number might be based on whatever standards we have for how many people we need in the nation. But just as long as they're legalized, there shouldn't be a limit to how many can enter the nation at any given time in any given annual period.
Yeah, for the most part.
Roughly,
yeah.
Where are you at?
Where I'm at, I was writing down where I'm at, so I'll make sure I know where I'm at. I agree. This guy. I agree that our legal process is broken. When it comes to immigration, I dare any American citizen to go and check out the questions and things that are asked to these people on these legalization immigration papers. No one here could answer those questions properly.
Those guys come in knowing more than the average citizen does.
It does, about our own history. It's ridiculous. So it's like when it comes to our legal process, we need to base it on background checks. We need to base it on what can you bring to this country. We need to base it on what do we need in this country. We need so many immigrants to help us in our fields. We need so many immigrants in our tech field. We need so many immigrants bringing in new innovative ideas. If you have a good idea, you should have those particular class of immigrants that come in. I think that comes with reforming our immigration. So not only do we know who's coming in, know when they're coming in, but know what they're coming here for. And I think that we'll be able to continue to track those people and actually give good, viable data about how these immigrants are helping and impacting our country. Secondly, I think the only way you can do that is by increasing our education system overall. Our education system is also broken. It is one of the worst education systems in the world, and anyone who tells you any different has not looked at the facts. We're like 20th on the list when it comes to modernized countries and education. We're falling vastly behind. I'm not saying we're not good. We're better than a lot of others. If it wasn't for our universities that are so renowned, we would be in some serious trouble.
So is that partially because of the number of immigrants that we have coming in the country that maybe don't speak English? Because that's a big thing that people are getting pissed off about. Like, you guys' favorite candidate, Donald Trump, thinks that if you come to this country, you should speak English. He's pissed. And a lot of people feel that way, even though, and I didn't know this for like the longest, but we don't have an official language. We don't have English set as our official language. Now, people will say, doesn't matter, like if you go somewhere, if you deal with anybody.
I thought our official language was American.
Right? But like, but that's what it's going to be, is like, English is perceived to be the most common language in the nation, therefore it's the rule, even though it's not officially the rule. So do you think that because people are coming here...
I think that goes back to education. Again, we're one of the only great nations in the world that does not speak more than one language. You go to any other country, maybe besides England, I think they do that a lot, they only speak English. But most of the countries in Europe, because they're so close to each other, because they have so many different languages, they speak 3 to 4 languages at the age of 5, 6, 7. You know 3 languages. In elementary school, we know 1, and we get mad at anyone for trying to make us learn another one. No. Who is our southern neighbor? Who is our closest border? Spanish-speaking people. that means that we should not only embrace that, but enforce that we should learn Spanish.
Why?
On top of, because those are our neighbors. Those are people,
But those neighbors are trying to get into our country. If we were going to visit them, I understand the need for
why aren't we going down there? And that's a whole other topic I don't want to get down on. But we should be investing in South America. If we were more invested in Mexico on a political and people stance, I don't think the cartels would be doing anything they're able to do. They're able to do that because they feel like America's not going to do anything. If we sent the military down there to clear out the cartels, I guarantee you we could clear them out.
Well, that's another issue entirely.
Exactly.
Because the thing is, everything that happens is within the borders of America that we're discussing. When you start talking about, well, how is America? Because that same logic is why we were discussing why other countries get so pissed off with us. Because we try and push democracy elsewhere, we try and police the rest of the world. Like, look, you stay on your side of the fence, we'll stay in our yard, you do your thing, and America is very invested everywhere. We make it our business to be invested in everyone else's situation. I firmly agree with you that knowing other languages is very beneficial to do business better, to be able to communicate with someone else if they can't. But there are people who believe that if you come here, you need to speak this language. Just like if you go down there, it's not just a good idea. You need to know how to communicate with people.
At least how to say hello.
So I mean, do you think that? I mean, like, and again, like, there are pros and cons to everything, but as far as it goes with the immigration. Whether or not they're, like, in that related to education, do you think that education is being impacted by the number of immigrants that are coming to this country, whether it be illegal or legal, because they are not getting the education and so our country as a whole is suffering from that? Or do you think that education is flawed to begin with and so when the immigrants get here, they don't have a fair shot at it, illegal or not, because even though they didn't go through the process of learning the language, there's not an opportunity for them to function well because we have limited ourselves to one language.
I'm going to first address your first issue. Just staying in the bounds of America. What is the second most spoke language in this country? Spanish. I could find the facts on it, but I'm pretty sure I'm right about that.
That's true.
The second most spoke language is Spanish. So if we know that there is that large of a population in our country that speaks that language, we should then be understanding and evolve to the point to where we teach our children both those languages.
Real quick, by 2020, 2020, I believe, or 2030, the number of Mexicans in this country is perceived to grow to 50 million, which would make them the largest minority in the nation, even over blacks. So actually, their growth rate in this country is growing substantially. So like you were saying, I just want to throw that statistic.
Yeah, exactly. And knowing these facts, everyone has this knowledge. Anyone can go out and look this up. We should speak more than one language in this country. And it's not about being unpatriotic. Like, when the Patriots came to this country, I guarantee you, most of them spoke more than one language. There's a lot of Dutch people. There's a lot of Irish people and various other people who came to this country, Scottish, that spoke various languages. And don't even get me started on all the Africans that came to this country and how many various languages they know. Even in Africa, with almost no education in some areas, they still know the language of 3 to 4 tribes and 3 to 4 nations around them. So we are disenfranchising ourselves from great business opportunities and furthering education by not teaching our children various languages. And on top of that, I do believe that when they do come here, whether it's legal or illegal, our education system is so broken, especially in the areas that they'll normally go to, which will normally be lower income areas. These educations are so horrible that they do have not the best opportunity. They have their opportunity is being taken from them in a sense because our education as a whole is broken. And that's not just Hispanic people, that's poor white people, that's poor black people, that's poor Arabic, poor Indian, I don't care. If you're poor in this country, your education is poor. That should be fixed. That should be greatly fixed. And we need to double down on our education. I don't necessarily believe there should be a cap. I believe we should more itemize where people go so we know where they go. But I believe once you fix the system and you start to, and I don't believe we need to go to Mexico and start a war with the cartels. That's not what I was trying to say. What I mean is we should have been in Mexico. We should have been such good friends before the cartels took power that the cartels would have fought 50 times before they would have did half the stuff they do. El Chapo dug a tunnel, like 4-mile tunnel to his cell room and just walked out of there. They were working on this thing for like half a year or something. Like, why is that a possibility, and why do they feel so bold? Because they know their government is so poor and they haven't been supported. They're not backed by anyone big enough to actually go after them. So they feel very entitled in their own sense to be like, oh, we can do whatever we want because we've got the gunpowder that we bought from America. We've got all the drugs that we're sending to America to fund us. So they're sending us stuff. Why aren't we sending our stuff down there to then help to smooth it out? And I'm not just talking about tourism.
Well, there's a lot of people who believe that, you know what, you do your thing, we'll do ours. When I remember I was talking with some people when the sarin gas thing was an issue, and I talked to one girl on it just when I was just at work, and the sarin gas situation came up, and she was like, "We need to stay out." I'm like, "Okay, but there are civilians that are being, like, they're not armed, they're not military. It's villages of people who are getting like obliterated by sarin gas and are dying in very not quick ways." And her response was, "That's their problem."
Very sorry.
So I mean, you know, that's that is a common thing in our country. Is like, well, you guys deal with it. Like, we shouldn't have to. You know, we shouldn't be over there dealing with you. Like, that's your problem. You guys fix it. And you know that. And so when we,
I don't think we should be isolationists, but I do want to say this is my last point. I am strongly for border control. I'm not for border control because I want to keep people out of this country. I want to keep drugs out of this country. I want to keep crack, meth, coke, everything, marijuana, all that kind of stuff out of this country, because not only do people, it goes to criminals. It goes to large criminal empires. And that's why I'm for border security. And if you catch people trying to cross the border, don't just turn them around and send them back, because what do you think they're going to do? Wait a day and try to hop back over? No, you send them to an area on the border where they can start that legal process, and you will help them through it. And if they are a viable candidate and they're not some criminal, crazy type person, they should have a very good chance of getting in this country to help themselves and benefit their lives. There's no reason why that people should be dying in containers trying to get shipped to this country. That in and of itself is a crime, and we need to fix our process. Well, and I'm wholeheartedly, we need to double down on our borders. I ain't building a wall, but we need to have various sentries set up. We need to have many more guard patrols so that these drugs have no avenue. They got to spend so much money trying to get it here, they bankrupt themselves, and they just realize, oh, it ain't even worth it. I might as well just stay where I'm at.
Well, I think the Pope is very, general on just the idea that, well, I was an immigrant, so, I mean, like, you guys are, holding out on people who could become something, or, they are robbed of a better life because, they don't have that, that opportunity. So you should give them that opportunity. It's a very across the board, like a very general idea, and I think it ignores a lot of things. I mean, personally, I think that yes, our process is ridiculous. Like, we need to, like, the number one thing for me is that if you come here and it needs to be legally, I am not a fan of people coming to this country from Mexico and then telling me how much better Mexico is. I don't want to hear that shit. If Mexico is better, stay down there. I don't want to hear it. Like, and I've known people like, no, Mexico is better. I'm like, really? Based on what? Because you're working in my country. Like, it pisses me off when people come in here and they're talking about how great it was back home. Well, your home sucks because you had to come here to make something of yourself because you weren't worth shit over there. And so you decided to come over here and, like, soak us up and make the best out of this situation for yourself, instead of appreciating the fact that there is a place that can happen, and provided that you actually want to be on the team, which is going through the legal process. You don't come here in a container. You come in here through the legal channels. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying you need to know every single president that there ever was, but you need to be aware of what it means to be an American, very well versed on the Constitution and the laws of this land, mm-hmm. and then be a supporter of that and be willing to contribute to that process, instead of coming here and be like, well, I want to get the best opportunity I can, but basically like, it's like getting hired at a company and like insulting your boss even though he gave you a job. We bring you in you're here and you're talking about how much better other countries are, and you just oh, America's like, no, forget that. Like if you like, I don't have a problem with us having immigrants come in, provided it's legally. I'm not saying that doesn't need to be adjusted with the process of making them legal, but coming here illegally is not acceptable. I mean,
and I do want to say there shouldn't be a cap, and the reason I say that is only because of issues like what's going on in Syria right now, where these Syrian people didn't choose to get thrown out of that country. They didn't choose to be inducted into the military. I heard stories now, as soon as you graduate from college, you graduate from high school, you're automatically inducted into the military, which means that the Syrian government, who is killing their own people, then has to make you go fight your fellow brethren. And people are leaving by the droves. Very educated people are leaving by the droves. So for those reasons, I believe there are going to be times where we're going to have a very narrow stream, and times when stuff's not going too well, we're going to have a very broad amount of people coming. What do? I wouldn't say necessarily cherry pick. You want to give everybody an option. But you do make sure you're prioritizing intelligent people to help grow our nation. Because the more intelligent people that we have, because the more industrialized we are now currently, the better we are. We're turning from a factory working society where half the factories nowadays are run by machines, literally. I know people who work in car factories, all they do is sit back and make sure the machines don't break and make sure they're within the proper parameters. That's the country we're becoming. We don't need manual labor. We're becoming a technology-driven country. And what do you need for technology? Intelligent people who understand technology, or who are just intelligent enough to where they can learn technology. And with us not capping our immigrants, we could send away the next Einstein.
Well, okay, let me kind of explain this, because I'm not saying that we should. I'm just saying we need to be mindful of how many people we take in.
I would agree.
Because if we take in way too many, then now we have even a greater homeless people problem. And we have other problems, so that's what I'm saying. But also, when you tell people you have to come in legally, there is going to be a cap, essentially, because it's going to be, like I said, people are going to be like, I really don't. I don't have the time to
process so many people. Yeah, you can only process so many people.
It depends on how we fund it. If we fund it well enough to where it's not. I have to talk about the VA in this, but
which is not funded enough, by the way. The VA is not funded enough.
Exactly. If we fund it like we do the VA, then it's going to take forever, because using my own personal experiences with the VA, I'm still waiting for them to give me a statement or a response to my appeal for my disability. So I sent that in November last year, and I'm still waiting, and it's about to be October. It's almost a year later. So if we don't fund it properly, there's going to be a cap, regardless of whether we want it to be a cap anyway, because the process is going to take way too damn long.
So I think that with that in mind, basically a lot of what the Pope is bringing in for talking points in his address to the President and Congress and the nation as a whole is lovely ideas, but
it is.
As far as what it actually entails to make those things a reality, I think he's very, not necessarily uninformed, but he doesn't command an army unless it's an army of Catholics. Like, he doesn't have weapons, he doesn't have, he doesn't run anything other than be the voice of truth for that faith. He doesn't even have his own country to call his own country. Like, it's not the Catholic headquarters of where, I get that he's in the Vatican, but, for him to come into America or to go to, Israel or go to Germany or wherever he goes and say, this is what I think you should be doing, because it would be nice if you did it. Yeah, it would be, but the world's more complex than that, and there are other things that,
he just doesn't know the process.
I don't think he can appreciate the level of things that have to change in order for that one small thing. It's not like, well, okay, we'll just let more immigrants in, because that ripple effect causes a lot of other things to happen.
Exactly.
So but
I think it's things that need to be said, though.
You want to have more of a heart for people who want to make a better situation, but I think you'll find a great level of apathy from people who hear that they are trying to get here for any other like reason other than that they want to be here and that they are trying to get here other than any other way than legally, as by the standards. Whether or not the standards need to be changed, people coming here illegally is a huge issue, huge.